Have you ever been lying next to someone, skin still warm, breath still uneven, their body pressed against yours, and yet inside, you feel completely alone? Not a little empty. Not unsatisfied. But alone in a way that feels confusing, embarrassing, and almost shameful, because how can you feel lonely at the most intimate moment two people can share? Nobody talks about this. People talk about bad sex. They talk about boring sex. They talk about no sex. But they don't talk about lonely sex. Because lonely sex doesn't look broken from the outside. The bodies move. The sounds are right. The closeness is there. Yet something essential is missing. And what makes this even more disturbing is that many people only realize how lonely they are after the moment is over. When the silence returns. When the lights go off. When one person turns away. When the phone comes out. When the room suddenly feels bigger than it should. Loneliness during sex isn't about the body. It's about the mind. It's about the nervous system. It's about emotional safety. And most of all, it's about connection that never actually formed, even though everything looked connected. Some people experience this once and can't stop thinking about it. Others experience it repeatedly and start believing something is wrong with them. They ask themselves, why do I feel empty when I'm supposed to feel close? Why do I feel unseen when someone is literally touching me? Why do I feel more alone during sex than when I'm actually alone? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Sex can be incredibly intimate, or it can be emotionally isolating. And the difference has very little to do with attraction, performance, or technique. Loneliness during sex often begins long before the clothes come off. It begins in the way two people relate. In what is never said. In what is avoided. In what one person feels but doesn't feel safe enough to express. Many people enter sexual moments carrying unspoken needs. They want reassurance. They want to feel chosen. They want to feel desired beyond the physical. They want to feel emotionally held, not just touched. But instead of expressing those needs, they stay silent. They perform. They please. They adapt. And while their body is present, their emotional self stays guarded. When sex becomes a performance instead of an expression, loneliness creeps in quietly. You're not being met. You're being used, even if unintentionally. And sometimes, you're using the other person too, hoping the act itself will fill a deeper emotional gap. Another reason people feel lonely during sex is because they don't feel seen. Being touched is not the same as being seen. Being desired is not the same as being understood. Someone can want your body while completely missing you. And the mind notices that difference immediately. That's why some people feel more emotionally connected during a deep conversation than during sex. Words can reveal what bodies sometimes hide. And when sex happens without emotional presence, it can feel hollow, like two bodies sharing space but two inner worlds staying separate. There's also the issue of emotional disconnection built over time. In long-term relationships, sex can continue even after emotional intimacy has faded. Resentment sits quietly in the room. Unresolved hurt stays unspoken. Feeling unappreciated becomes normal. So when sex happens, it doesn't feel like closeness. It feels like habit, or obligation, or a temporary escape from emotional distance that returns the moment it ends. And then there's attachment wounds. People who grew up learning that love is inconsistent often crave closeness while fearing it at the same time. During sex, their body wants connection, but their nervous system stays alert, guarded, waiting for abandonment. So even in the arms of someone else, they feel alone. Because their mind is not resting. It's bracing. Loneliness during sex can also come from emotional mismatch. One person feels deeply. The other stays surface level. One is present. The other is distracted, rushed, or emotionally unavailable. The lonely person senses this imbalance instantly. and the body reacts. You can't fake emotional alignment for long. The body knows when it's not being met. There's also the painful reality that some people use sex to avoid loneliness rather than heal it. They seek physical closeness, hoping it will soothe emotional emptiness. But when sex ends, the loneliness doesn't disappear, it intensifies. Because now there's proof that closeness didn't fix what was missing. This is why some people feel lonelier after sex than before it. The contrast becomes unbearable. For a brief moment, they thought connection was happening. Then reality returns. And what hurts the most is the confusion. They wonder why something that's supposed to bring people closer makes them feel further apart. Here's what most people don't realize. True intimacy isn't created by touch alone. It's created by safety, presence, vulnerability, and emotional attunement. Without those, sex can feel like two strangers sharing a moment, no matter how familiar the bodies are. And the more someone ignores this loneliness, the more it shows up. They become detached during sex. They dissociate. They mentally leave the room while their body stays behind. That's not because they don't care. It's because their emotional system is protecting them from feeling unseen again. This kind of loneliness is quiet. It doesn't scream. It settles in slowly. And if it's not understood, it can damage self-worth, relationships, and the way someone experiences intimacy entirely. And we're only just beginning to uncover why this happens. Because beneath loneliness during sex are deeper psychological patterns. Patterns shaped by childhood, past relationships, unmet emotional needs, and the way people learn to survive emotionally. What many people don't understand is that the mind doesn't automatically switch off just because the body is aroused. You can be physically responsive and emotionally disconnected at the same time. Your body can react while your inner world stays guarded, distant, or numb. This is because arousal is biological, but intimacy is psychological. And when the mind doesn't feel safe, seen, or emotionally engaged, it pulls away, even if the body stays. One of the biggest reasons people feel lonely during sex is emotional absence. Not absence of affection. Not absence of attraction. But absence of presence. Presence is when someone is fully there with you. Not thinking about what comes next. Not mentally elsewhere. Not treating the moment like a routine. When presence is missing, sex feels mechanical, predictable, empty. And the lonely person feels it immediately. They sense when someone's touch lacks intention. They sense when desire is more about release than connection. They sense when they're being touched, but not felt. Another powerful factor is unspoken emotional hunger. Many people carry deep emotional needs they don't even consciously recognize. They want reassurance that they matter. They want to feel chosen, not just desired. They want to feel emotionally special, not physically convenient. So when sex happens without emotional affirmation, the hunger grows stronger. Instead of feeling fulfilled, they feel exposed. Instead of feeling close, they feel emotionally naked and alone. This is why some people feel a sudden sadness during or after sex. Not because sex was bad, but because it highlighted what was missing. There's also the role of self-abandonment. Some people disconnect from themselves during sex in order to keep the other person. They ignore their own needs. They silence discomfort. They prioritize pleasing over feeling. And when you abandon yourself in intimacy, loneliness becomes inevitable. Because even if someone is with you, you are not fully with yourself. Your body is there, but your truth is not. Over time, this creates a strange emotional split. Sex becomes something you do, not something you share. And sharing is where connection lives. Another layer many people don't talk about is power imbalance. When one person holds emotional power, when they care less, invest less, or stay emotionally distant, the other often feels lonely during intimacy. They're constantly trying to earn closeness, trying to be enough, trying to be chosen. And sex becomes a moment of quiet hoping. Hoping this time it will feel different. Hoping this time the closeness will last. But it rarely does. And when it ends, the emotional gap feels even wider. There's also the impact of unresolved emotional pain. Old wounds don't disappear during intimacy. They show up. If someone has experienced betrayal, neglect, emotional abandonment, or inconsistency in the past, their nervous system remembers. Even in moments of closeness, part of them stays alert. They may crave intimacy deeply, but they don't fully trust it. So while their body moves closer, their heart stays guarded. That internal conflict creates loneliness, because part of them wants connection, and part of them is protecting itself from being hurt again. Then there's sexualized loneliness. This happens when someone uses sex as their primary source of emotional validation. They feel wanted only when desired sexually, seen only when touched, important only when pursued. But sexual validation fades quickly, and when it does, the loneliness comes rushing back, often stronger than before. Because being wanted for your body doesn't always translate to being valued for who you are. And the mind knows the difference. Some people also experience loneliness during sex because they feel emotionally invisible. Their inner world is never explored. Their feelings are never deeply acknowledged. Their vulnerability is never met with curiosity. So even during physical closeness, they feel unknown. And feeling unknown by someone who touches you intimately can be deeply painful. It creates a sense of emotional exposure without emotional safety. Another quiet reason for loneliness during sex is emotional mismatch in expectations. One person experiences sex as bonding. The other experiences it as physical release. Neither is wrong, but when these expectations clash, loneliness forms. The bonding partner feels abandoned emotionally. The other feels confused, unaware of the impact. And because expectations are rarely discussed openly, the loneliness continues silently. There's also the role of disconnection from the body itself. Some people have learned to disconnect from physical sensations due to past trauma, shame, or emotional conditioning. During sex, they may go numb. Their mind drifts. They stop feeling present. And when you're not fully in your body, connection becomes impossible, even with someone else right there. This kind of loneliness is subtle but profound. It feels like watching yourself from the outside, like being present but not really there. And many people don't even realize it's happening. They just know something feels off. What makes this loneliness even more painful is that society tells us sex equals intimacy. So when intimacy is missing, people blame themselves. They think they're broken, too emotional, too needy, too detached. But in reality, their emotional system is responding appropriately to disconnection. Loneliness during sex is not a personal failure. It's a signal that something deeper needs attention. Many people don't realize it, but loneliness during sex is often a pattern learned over years. It's not just about the relationship you're in, it's about the relationships you grew up with, the ones that shaped how you respond to love, closeness, and vulnerability. If as a child you learned that expressing need or emotion led to disappointment, rejection, or neglect, your nervous system carries that lesson into adulthood. Even when someone is physically close, emotionally your system is screaming, "Don't get too close. You might get hurt." So while your body is in the moment, your heart and mind remain on guard. And that tension manifests as loneliness. A hollow feeling that sits in the chest and refuses to go away, no matter how present the other person appears. Some people learn to dissociate during intimacy, to float above the moment instead of inhabiting it fully. This protects them from emotional pain but also guarantees that intimacy is never fully felt. They move, respond, perform, but they never arrive emotionally. And that's what makes lonely sex feel so confusing. Because physically it's happening, but emotionally it's absent. It's also important to understand that loneliness during sex often reveals unmet needs in the relationship, not just in the individual. When two people are mismatched emotionally, when one is available and present while the other is distracted, unavailable, or emotionally closed, the body may engage, but the heart withdraws. And this withdrawal feels like a chasm you cannot cross. Even in long-term partnerships, loneliness during sex can emerge if the relationship lacks emotional attunement. Partners may live together, share bills, raise children, and maintain routines, but if deep emotional connection is missing, intimacy becomes mechanical. The body moves, but the soul remains separate. There's also a more subtle factor at play: fear of vulnerability. Sex requires a level of openness that many people are terrified to fully embrace. To show your body is to show your inner self. And when someone fears judgment, rejection, or shame, their nervous system clamps down. You may be lying next to someone, fully exposed physically, but emotionally hidden behind a wall you can't easily dismantle. This is why some people feel lonely even in relationships that appear healthy, even with partners who love them. The wall isn't about the partner, it's about safety. It's about survival. It's about fear that emotional surrender will result in pain. Another often overlooked reason is the influence of shame. Society tells us that intimacy is supposed to feel magical, effortless, and wholly satisfying. When it doesn't, people feel defective. Shame builds quietly and deepens emotional distance. You begin to avoid confronting your own needs or expressing them, because doing so would mean admitting you're incomplete or inadequate. And when shame lingers, loneliness becomes inevitable. Loneliness during sex also thrives on the expectation that touch alone equals connection. Many people assume that being physically close automatically translates to emotional closeness. It does not. Intimacy requires presence, attunement, and emotional alignment. Without those, no amount of physical closeness can prevent the hollow feeling. Some people also struggle with attachment wounds that make intimacy paradoxical. They crave closeness deeply, yet fear it intensely. During sex, this duality creates a push-pull dynamic. They may seek connection while simultaneously shutting themselves off, creating a perfect storm for emotional loneliness. And here's the silent truth: lonely sex is often a reflection of inner emotional isolation. If someone doesn't feel fully connected to themselves, if they struggle to inhabit their own body, feel their own emotions, or trust their own worth, they cannot fully inhabit a sexual moment with someone else. The disconnection isn't just with the partner, it starts within. And that is why lonely sex is both heartbreaking and enlightening. It's heartbreaking because it shows what's missing. It's enlightening because it tells you exactly what needs attention: your own emotional safety, self-awareness, and capacity for vulnerability. What many people don't realize is that addressing loneliness during sex isn't just about changing partners. It's about changing how you connect emotionally, both with yourself and with others. It's about recognizing unmet needs, learning to express them safely, and finding partners willing to meet you on that emotional level. The first step in ending loneliness during sex is awareness. You have to recognize it for what it is: not a flaw in you, not a failure of your partner, but a signal. A signal that your emotional needs are not being met. A signal that something deeper in your connection, or within yourself, needs attention. Awareness means noticing the moment when your body is present but your mind is elsewhere. Noticing when you feel empty despite closeness. Noticing the subtle ache of being unseen. The second step is communicating your needs. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. Many people fear that expressing desire for emotional closeness will make them appear needy, or weak. But intimacy is a two-way street. If your partner doesn't know what you need, they cannot provide it. You might say something like, "I want to feel more connected to you during sex." Or, "I feel lonely when we're intimate and I don't feel emotionally seen." Vulnerability like this can feel terrifying, but it's the doorway to connection. The third step is being present in your own body. Too often, we exist outside ourselves during intimacy, caught in fear, shame, or dissociation. Slow down. Breathe. Notice how your body feels. Notice the sensations of touch, the rhythm of movement, the warmth of skin. Presence is contagious. When you are fully in your body, it encourages your partner to be present too. Step 4 is aligning emotional and physical intimacy. Sex without emotional connection is often what creates loneliness. Emotional closeness can be built in small, consistent ways. Eye contact during intimacy. Gentle touch that isn't goal-oriented. Whispering, talking, or sharing how you feel. Pausing to check in with each other emotionally. These small gestures bridge the gap between physical and emotional presence. Step 5 is healing attachment wounds and past trauma. Therapy, journaling, and inner work can help you reconnect with yourself. If you've learned to guard your heart because of past hurt, loneliness during sex will persist until those patterns are addressed. It's not easy, but emotional freedom transforms intimacy. Step 6 is choosing partners who are emotionally capable. Some people simply cannot provide emotional attunement, no matter how physically loving they are. Lonely sex often occurs with partners who are emotionally unavailable, distracted, or self-centered. You cannot fix someone else's emotional absence, but you can choose to be with someone whose emotional presence matches your own needs. Step 7 is practicing sexual mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just meditation, it's fully inhabiting the moment, noticing sensations, thoughts, and emotions without judgment. During intimacy, mindfulness keeps your mind and body aligned, reducing disconnection and emotional loneliness. Step 8 is acknowledging and releasing shame. Many people feel defective or unworthy when sex feels lonely. But loneliness is not your fault. It is a signal, not a judgment. When you release shame, you open yourself to vulnerability and authentic connection. And finally, step 9 is seeing sex as emotional communion, not performance. Lonely sex often comes from performing to meet someone else's expectations, or your own. Stop trying to be perfect or enough. Focus on connecting. Focus on presence. Focus on mutual feeling. When sex becomes a moment of mutual emotional presence rather than just physical motion, loneliness dissolves. Here's the profound truth. Loneliness during sex is not about the act itself, it's about emotional intimacy and self-connection. When you feel fully seen, fully heard, and fully present, sex stops being lonely. It becomes a sacred space of connection, trust, and deep satisfaction. And that's the gift waiting for anyone willing to face the discomfort, express their needs, and cultivate emotional presence. Because the most powerful intimacy happens when body, mind, and heart finally meet. Lonely sex is not a failure, it's a signal. And signals are meant to be understood, not ignored. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this: you don't have to feel alone in intimacy. You can experience closeness, connection, and emotional fulfillment if you learn to inhabit your own heart and invite your partner to meet you there. And remember, the path to real intimacy always begins with yourself. Because you cannot connect deeply with another until you are fully present with yourself. Before we dive into exercises, I want you to take a moment and breathe with me. Inhale slowly, feel your chest rise, hold it, and exhale, let go of tension. Do it again, inhale, hold, exhale. This is the first practice of presence. If your mind wandered while listening, it's okay, just bring it back. Exercise 1. Check in with yourself before intimacy. Before you're intimate with a partner, take a moment alone. Ask yourself, how do I feel emotionally right now? Am I craving connection, comfort, or just release? Do I feel safe to be vulnerable with my partner? Write down or reflect quietly on your answers. The goal is to know what you need before connecting physically, so your body and mind don't go separate ways. Exercise 2. Mindful touch. When you or your partner initiate intimacy, focus fully on one sensation at a time. Notice the warmth of skin, the pressure of hands, the rhythm of breathing. Name what you feel internally. This feels comforting. This feels exciting. This feels safe. By labeling sensations without judgment, you strengthen emotional and physical alignment, reducing the hollow feeling of loneliness. Exercise 3. Eye contact and verbal connection. During intimate moments, pause and look into your partner's eyes. Say something small but meaningful. I'm happy to be with you right now. I feel close to you. You make me feel safe. Even if it feels awkward at first, verbalizing connection signals your nervous system that emotional presence is safe. Lonely sex often happens because the nervous system doesn't feel safe, so small affirmations change everything. Exercise 4. Share emotional reflections after sex. Many people feel lonely after intimacy because emotions go unspoken. Try this. Sit together quietly for 1 minute. Share one feeling or thought about the experience. Avoid critique or analysis. Just describe what you felt. This creates emotional continuity, bridging the gap between physical closeness and emotional connection. Exercise 5. Self-connection during sex. Some people feel lonely because they abandon themselves during intimacy. Practice checking in with your own emotions mid-act. Ask yourself, am I enjoying this moment? Am I honoring my needs? Am I present with myself as well as my partner? By staying connected to yourself, you create emotional availability, which naturally reduces loneliness. Example 1. Emotional mismatch in a relationship. Imagine one partner sees sex as bonding, while the other sees it as release. Without communication, the bonding partner feels lonely. With awareness and reflection, they might say, I want to feel more connected during sex. Can we slow down and talk? This simple act often transforms the experience from hollow to fulfilling. Example 2. Past trauma and nervous system alertness. Some people carry emotional alarms from childhood, rejection, neglect, or inconsistency. During intimacy, these alarms trigger withdrawal. Practices like mindful breathing, grounding, and vocalizing safety needs help calm the nervous system. Guided reflection. Take 30 seconds now. Close your eyes and ask yourself, where in my body do I feel disconnected during intimacy? What emotional need am I not expressing? What could I do to feel more seen, heard, and safe? Notice what comes up without judgment. This is your inner guidance speaking. Exercise 6. Building intimacy outside the bedroom. Lonely sex often reflects emotional distance in daily life. Spend time connecting emotionally. Share your thoughts, dreams, and fears. Hold hands without the expectation of sex. Laugh, talk, and touch casually. These small moments create emotional infrastructure, making intimacy richer and loneliness less likely. Exercise 7. Healing shame and self-worth. Many feel lonely because they believe something is wrong with them. Practice daily affirmations. I am worthy of connection. I am enough, inside and out. It is safe for me to be seen fully. Combine these affirmations with grounding exercises, feet on the floor, hands on your chest, to anchor emotional safety. Exercise 8. Choosing emotionally capable partners. Lonely sex isn't always your fault. If your partner is emotionally unavailable, disconnected, or dismissive, intimacy will always feel hollow. Pay attention to patterns in relationships. Seek partners who are capable of presence, emotional attunement, and communication. Exercise 9. Slow sex and exploration. Slow down. Touch without rushing. Explore your partner's body without a goal. Lonely sex often happens when sex is goal-oriented. By slowing down, noticing sensations, and sharing subtle emotions, connection deepens naturally. Closing reflection. Loneliness during sex is not a failure. It's a message. It's telling you to pay attention to emotional presence, self-connection, and vulnerability. It's telling you to choose awareness over performance, presence over autopilot, and connection over isolation. If you practice these exercises consistently, lonely sex can transform into profound intimacy, where mind, body, and heart finally align. And that is the essence of true emotional closeness. If you've ever felt lonely during intimacy, know this: you are not broken, and you are not alone. What you're feeling is a signal, an invitation to connect more deeply with yourself and with your partner. Take the time to explore your emotional needs, practice presence, and communicate openly. Slow down. Feel. Speak. Be seen. And if you found this video helpful, don't just let it sit here. Share it with someone who might need to hear this too. Subscribe to Psychology of Intimacy for more insights into human connection, vulnerability, and the hidden truths about love and closeness. Hit the like button if this resonated with you, and comment below. Have you ever felt lonely during sex? I'd love to hear your experiences and thoughts. Let's start a conversation about intimacy that really matters. Remember, true connection begins within, and your journey toward emotional intimacy starts today.